after you're done watching this video, you're definitely going to have some hairs missing on your head. This video was very hard for me to watch all the way through, simply because of the amount of stupidity, amount of ignorance, and the way these types of people have dialogue. I am luckily in trade school, so I don't really have to deal with these types of people at school or college, thankfully, because again, it's trade school, which is quite different than, you know, I don't know, a psychology class or gender studies class or what sociology class. If I was this teacher, I would probably punch, this is why I could never be a teacher. I'd probably punch the student in the face. I would probably say something very, very mean to the student. I just could not be in a position like this to talk with students because of the things that, well, this generation, these types of millennial type of thinking where everybody is so politically correct. But it stems more than just being politically correct. Now it's actually more of a legal issue. It's a legislation on what you should and shouldn't call people by their proper pronouns, by their proper names, by their proper identities, by their proper sexualities, by their proper everything. And I'm really fortunate to not have to deal with this type of stuff in my college schooling that I'm in right now.
I want to go talk to Peterson. Peterson, do you have any comments on the Nazi presence at your protest? The presence of Nazis and white supremacists assaulting people at your protest. Do you have any comment on that?
Yeah, I don't like Nazis.
Then why were they here?
Well, how can I answer
Are there views in alignment with yours? At some point you have to realize.
I think that's a foolish question. Look, if you want to know what my views are...
I've watched all of your videos, yes.
Including...
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Then why would you ask such a question?
Because this is my interpretation of your videos.
You know, about that, as someone who makes videos here on YouTube, I can say that how you interpret what I say is completely your own goddamn fault. And I've made this argument plenty of times, but I could make a video on my love for puppies, and because I'm specifically talking about my love for puppies, someone interprets me as somehow thinking or saying that I hate cats, when the reality is I never said I hate cats. I've never said that I hate any animal for that matter. But how they interpret it is because I don't talk about cats, therefore I must hate cats. I've dealt with this quite a lot on YouTube, and I can only imagine what it'd be like in a classroom environment when you blatantly say clearly what you're trying to say, and someone completely interprets it differently because they're stupid, or they interpret it in a way that they want to interpret to make themselves feel like a victim or someone who needs a pity party. Just because you interpret something that I say differently than my intention does not mean that you are right in your interpretation. What's most important is that you go to the teacher, you go to the person, and you ask them to clarify what they meant. And you can tell just by the student asking, so what do you think of these Nazis at your protest? You had a Nazi at your protest. You must condone Nazism. You must be supporting people who believe in white supremacy. You know that's exactly what they're trying to egg on because someone was at their protest, at some protests, and has, you know, really radical views. I don't know if anybody remembers, but this was up, I don't know if it was Ireland, I don't remember where it was. It was somewhere up north near Europe, but I got blamed for being responsible for a school stabbing. Supposedly there was this kid, he took a sword to school and he stabbed several students, I think killing one student. And I found out is that this kid, this teen, this young adult, I don't know, actually was subscribed to my YouTube channel among other YouTubers. But I had people coming to me saying, you know, I'm responsible for this person stabbing students because he somehow associated with me, because he somehow watched my YouTube videos. I must have been an influence for why he stabbed people.
I've watched all of your videos, yes.
Including...
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Then why would you ask such a question?
Because this is my interpretation of your videos.
Apparently,
all of the people who arranged the protest against you watched all of your videos.
It's like, do you want to disavow...
I have 150 videos on YouTube.
No, your lectures, which sparked the debate.
Okay.
Do you want to disavow the support...
Could you let me talk to her for a moment?
Don't call me that, please.
So, I have 150 lectures on YouTube. There's 500 hours of my views.
Do you really think that you're worth all of that time?
So look,
you have a PhD professor who has dedicated his time to investing into students like you who are uneducated, to give people free source material on YouTube completely with his own time to educate and give people an understanding. And yet you as a student say, Are you really worth that amount of time? See, if you really believe that the teacher is not worth your time, why the fuck would you even attempt to have a dialogue with someone who isn't worth your time? You clearly have not watched his lecture videos, because if you had, you wouldn't ask such a stupid question such as, are you really that important enough for us to waste our time watching you? I don't like liars, and it's very clear that you are a liar already.
I will answer your question, okay? I've studied Nazism for a very long time. It's been 4 decades, and I understand it very well. And I can tell you that there's some awful people lurking in the corners, and they're ready to come out. And if the radical left keeps pushing the way
that sounds very much like a
they're
threat.
Going to come.
That sounds very much like a
threat.
threat. That sounds very much like a threat. Would you like to disavow the physical violence? Trans people were physically assaulted at this rally in your name. Would you like to disavow that violence?
Yes.
So you wish that didn't happen, and you want to, and I'm going to post this online that you would like people to not to be more accommodating of trans people and people of color at your events in future.
I would like there to be no violence.
I'm a person of color, and I felt very accommodating here. I felt like my voice. Thank you very much.
I'm also former Muslim, and I feel like this guy's
I'm a person of color. There are many Muslims.
You wanted to disavow. You wanted to disavow, and this is the disavowal. I am not an advocate of violence. I'm speaking out the way I'm speaking out because I think this is a route to no violence. And violence is lurking. And you can say that that sounds like a threat.
There was no violence at our protest, though. There was violence at your protest. So what does that say about our views?
It's not my protest.
Well, there was violence at your protest, but no violence at our. What a juvenile way of thinking. So because there's violence at a protest, that therefore invalidates what the people are protesting. That therefore makes one person protesting's message more important than another person's protesting message. Violence happens all the time at protests. To use that as an argument to simply discontinue the conversation of their particular protest is fucking stupid.
You know, asking me continually freighted questions isn't very helpful if you actually want to have a dialogue. You have no idea if I'm your enemy. You have no idea about me.
You won't use my pronouns, so I'm pretty sure you're my enemy, yes.
Yeah, well, I know you think that, but I don't believe that using your pronouns is going to do you any good in the long run. I think it'll do quite the contrary.
What the?
Is that your medical opinion?
What, is that your medical opinion? Like, you are aware that non-binary people are valid in the American Psychological Association.
Is that your opinion?
And in regards to the word non-binary, I've really never talked about non-binary people or people wanting to be called non-binary or refer to their proper pronouns, but I want to address it in this video officially. I'm not gonna call you. I don't believe in the pronoun stuff. I'm not going to call you they, and I'm not going to call you them. You can unsubscribe from my channel if that is something that you take issue with. All these sorts of gender identities, I don't believe in it. I believe that there are 2 genders. I do believe that if you are a man and you feel like you are a woman, that you can identify like that. I don't see an issue with you identifying with being a man and wanting to like more feminine products or dress feminine. That's perfectly okay to me. I don't have an issue with that. But I'm never, ever, 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 even if we passed a legislation, I will never fucking refer to someone as they or them. It will not happen. I will not do it. I think it's stupid. I think it's wrong. And even in this same line of thinking of this professor, using the proper pronouns, I do believe does things does harm in the long run. And I don't believe to catering to people. I will never cater to fucking demands for me to refer to you by a certain thing. If you look like a man and I see you in public and I refer to you as a him, as a man, and I don't know differently, you can't get fucking mad at me for that. And if you do get mad at me, I have no interest in even respecting your goddamn pronouns or calling you by your proper non-binary terminologies. And I realize that it's not a popular opinion that I have. I realize that if I was on a college campus spouting this, I'd probably fucking get harassed or punched by fucking women.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
It's about non-binary pronouns.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
I'm
saying that that's what I'm about.
Rally? Were you there when I spoke?
I've been here for this whole thing.
Okay, well, I don't know that. It's a genuine question. Look, I think that's what's happening is that we're pushing over a line we shouldn't cross. The newest legislation is requiring people to use.
But you are aware that that's being put in place so that we can't get fired. We need to be written into the Canada human rights legislation, or we can be fired for our gender identity.
I'm not aware of that.
Well, then why'd you make a fucking video about it? I've been denied housing as a trans person. These rights would protect me.
Denied housing?
I've been denied housing.
From the state or for the open market? So have you been denied housing, like From the government?
It's illegal either
From the
way
government?
if we had
From the
human
government?
rights.
From the government?
I'm not
or have you tried to get a house like everybody else and they said, no, you're weird, you can't work? No, if the state has done that, that's a problem.
They said,
but if someone doesn't want to live with you, that's their right.
They said, no, you're trans.
not sure how you
so no, if I had human rights, that wouldn't have fucking happened.
Yeah,
as
you're
I'm
weird.
concerned,
I don't want to live with schizophrenic
As far as
people.
I'm
I don't want to live with
concerned,
people who are
that's a
bipolar.
terrible
I
thing.
don't wanna live with
It's too bad that that's happened.
So you
to
don't want us to, but you don't want us to have protections in the human rights bill that will allow me to have employment,
I don't
allow
want-
me to have housing security,
want-
allow me to have medical care. That's what this is about.
That's
It's
what
not
you
about
think it's
infringing
about.
on your rights or making you learn a new fucking pronoun.
I don't think that's what it's about. What evidence do you have that attempting to transform the way that people use pronouns is going to produce a positive effect on
Because
society?
are you aware that there is a trans boy who killed himself in psychiatric care recently because he was continuously being misgendered by his care workers?
And that is my precise problem.
And there have been multiple recorded instances of trans people killing themselves because they are not being integrated into society. We are not looking for special treatment. We are looking to be able to integrate ourselves into society. And if you refuse to refer to us by our pronouns, which is not allowed to ask, singular they pronouns go all the way back to Shakespeare. It's not a new thing. If you refuse to let us integrate ourselves into society, you create alienation that results in suicide.
I really want to meet this professor. I really do, because the amount of patience he has to someone who's talking like this is incredible to me. Like, I could not be in his position and have a conversation or even attempt to talk to someone who is spewing the type of, as he even said himself, rhetoric as he is. I don't know. Like, you can't even get a word in, and if you try to respond to anything, it moves on to some completely other topic. Every person, whether you're trans or not trans, deserves basic human rights. But I'm gonna say this, if someone kills themselves because they're not being referred to as they or them, you're doing the gene pool a goddamn big favor. And I mean that sincerely. I'm not gonna apologize for that comment either. Oh, someone's not gonna call me they or them, I'm going to kill myself because of that. The level of pandering that these people ask for is amazing to me. Like, as far as I will go is if I have a friend who is trans, and their name is a male name, but they want me to refer to them as a female name, I don't have an issue with names. Like, in mid-conversation, for me to think to call them a they or a them, to use this sort of, jargon that they require, it's not in my, I don't think like that. I'm never gonna think like that. And even if I force myself to think that way, it wouldn't do me any good and wouldn't do you any good other than making you feel special. And guess what? I'm not about making people feel goddamn special on this YouTube channel. You're a human goddamn being, you're just like everybody else, but you're not goddamn special because you're fucking transgender. You're not goddamn special because you're fucking gay. You're not goddamn special because you're fucking straight. You're not goddamn special because someone refers to you as a proper pronoun. And if your value, here's the thing, if your value is dependent upon what someone calls you in terms of your pronoun, because your value as a person, as a human being, should not be dependent upon a goddamn word in what you're called. Your self-esteem should not be rooted in your pronouns. Because that's something that I keep seeing that's reoccurring with these types of people, is that their esteem and identity is rooted in what they're called by their pronoun. And I feel really sorry for people who rely and put their self-esteem in such petty words to make themselves feel good.
We are in a suicide epidemic right now. What are you contributing to this as a psychologist?
Man, you're almost impossible to talk to. You're so full of rhetoric that it's impossible to listen to you. I would be more than happy to listen to you.
Yeah,
I
really.
I was devoid of rhetoric. And I don't really think I am a rhetorician. Just so you know that. And it's very hard to listen to you. I mean, it's very hard to attend to you
because
you rattle on with your ideological speech.
It's not ideological. It's personal. That's what
It's not personal. You haven't said a personal thing.
I'm talking about something that affects my community.
It's just that when you say the things that you say, it tends, even if you didn't mean it to, it attracts people like neo-Nazis and fascists because they see an avenue in what you're saying to do what they want. Even if that's not what you meant, they see an avenue in your in the idea of like a more abscondist form of free speech. They see an avenue in that to continue to spread their hateful ideology and to make more people hateful. So that's why the Nazis come here. I just wanted to make sure that you knew that's why that was.
I'm perfectly aware of it.
I have a calm, rational question.
Okay.
I won't get emotional with you. So who is this legislation harming? Who is
harming anybody who wants to use their own words?
So in what capacity? Be specific.
Look, it's important that people are able to use their own words.
Okay.
Because that's how we think. And
So-
if the government starts legislating how we think, and
So
how
if
we
I
speak,
wanted
we're
to
gonna
call
be-
you
Are
she,
you going to let me say
no,
it?
I'm playing off of what you're saying. If I wanted to call you she and her and miss, because
I
that's
don't
my
care
freedom of
what you
speech,
call me.
and if everyone just called you that all the time, and that was the only thing.
Call me. Can't you tell?
I think that you don't care because you've never had to face that, and it's a common trend among people who have never had to face like transgender-related discrimination that you think it's not a big deal because you don't have to deal
I
with
didn't say I
it.
didn't think it was a big deal. I said I didn't care if people called me that.
Public institutions, but it does prevent us from accessing healthcare. And it does prevent us from accessing other services.
I'm not arguing about your rights.
Yes, you are.
Yes, you are.
It's
about our rights.
Legislation for trans
I'm sorry, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you realize that right now, if you were to kill a trans person, because only for the sole reason that they're trans, that would not be considered a hate crime. Sure, they could be convicted of murder, but not of a hate crime. And that's what this
I don't
bill,
see what
that's
this-
what,
what-
that's
Actually,
what
back
this
in the States, they can use a trans panic defense
Yeah,
in almost
yeah.
all of the United States and get off by claiming temporary insanity because they were freaked out by the trans person.
I am not claiming for a moment that people who don't fit into standard and traditional sexual categories or sexual identity categories
This is about
don't
gender,
face
though.
all sorts of trouble. They do.
Sexuality.
I just don't think that this is the way to fix it. In fact, I think
Do you not a law that legislates protections from discrimination for trans people?
not this way.
I will never support someone ever under any circumstance being discriminated against due to their skin color, due to them being trans, due to them being transsexual, due to them being whatever. But discrimination is the new buzzword that's being used towards everything. If someone does not get referred properly by their correct pronoun, I often see the accusation of discrimination. You didn't refer to me as a him, he, she, miss, he, they, hum, them, bum, whatever. You didn't refer to me as the proper non-binary pronoun. Therefore, you are committing discrimination against trans people. This is what I commonly see, and I would never support violence or not hiring someone because someone is trans. But if you really think that not calling you a they or a them or a he is somehow related to actual discrimination, you take away the real definition of people who are in fact discriminated against because of their skin color, because of their sexual orientation, because of their something, I don't know. Discrimination in the USA is still a pretty big thing, and it still does in fact happen. But it's like the words sexism, misogyny, and racism. Words that we've taken to mean things where the word doesn't apply.
You do not think that.
That's right. I don't think.
Have you read
That's
the laws are intentionally
to
worded?
bring as many
Most
people-
laws involving
cause
human
as
rights.
much trouble to as many people as possible.
What would we gain? What would we gain from
There is a
that?
conspiracy of intent.
I didn't say it was a conspiracy.
You think there is a concentrated effort behind these bills in order to specifically make the lives of people worse, and that's why we create human rights legislation to make it.
I think
harder
that
for
people.
to
I
live
think
their
that people
lives.
often do things to make other people's lives worse. Don't you?
Well, clearly, as an example of this rally.
I am probably the most fervent anti-statist you will ever meet. I am an anarchist, and I do not believe that anyone who writes legislation has the interest of anybody but themselves and their special interest groups at heart. So don't come at me saying that I want to suck off the nipple of the government, okay? Because that's not who I am. What I'm interested is in that people I love are being assaulted, are being killed, are being discriminated against, are being kicked out onto the street, are freezing to death in the winter because
I'm
they're being
against
denied
that,
shelter.
too.
And I feel.
But pronouns are too much to ask for you to show solidarity towards those
Can I
people.
just have a moment?
Sorry.
Look, we agree that this is a thing that's happening. We agree that it's a reprehensible thing that's happening.
Okay, sure. Let's agree on that.
I mean, I don't think that would be controversial to most people. I mean, apparently,
I agree.
apparently some
People
people
here
think.
was,
Apparently, to some people, we're freaks because we can't have families or whatever. But what okay, whatever. Maybe that's not something you agree with. I don't know. I'm not going to put words in
Definitely
your
not
mouth in that
something I
regard.
agree with.
What I fail to understand is how you honestly feel, in your expert opinion, as both an educator, as an educated person, that not calling somebody by a pronoun that has been used to refer to,
No, I think
individual
it's
people.
legislating it. It's legislating it as a necessity that I have an objection to.
Okay, so if there was this legislation was not on the table, if this legislation fails, let's say, if this is removed, you would be totally fine referring to me with they them pronouns.
Probably not they and them.
Probably not they and them. Why is
No.
that?
Well, because I don't think it's a tenable solution.
A
I don't think
solution
it's
to what?
I don't think it's a solution to the problem that you're trying to solve. I mean, it's not.
You
Look,
don't think it's basic
it's not
respect.
that easy.
Look at that girl in the background. That guy told me that I can't have children, and she goes in like this emo phase, just like, oh, I'm so triggered. And he's just rubbing her shoulder just to make sure that she's, you know, comforted. God, you fucking stupid. Fuck these people, man. How is this what education and schooling and college and the university, how has this turned into this? This level of pandering and victimization of oneself is astounding. It makes me want to stay away from going to college because of this sort of shit. I go to school because I want to be taught new things. I want to learn and make my future career, not argue over what somebody feels and, oh my God, my feelings got hurt. That's what I feel education nowadays in the USA and universities and colleges. That's what education is. It's all about my feelings. My feelings. My feelings.
To track that, I know that's how you do it.
You were literally saying
you can make up a word and make that a child's name, and you would refer to them by that name. Why is it different for a pronoun?
No, it's different because it's different.
No, it's just as important.
just asked.
It's different because it's a pronoun for a lot of reasons.
So
I think one of the reasons it's different is that pronouns turn out to be very difficult to change. They're closed linguistic.
Which is why we're using they them pronouns, which has historical continuity.
Yeah,
it is in the English language. It's in the Oxford English Dictionary.
It's nothing new.
As an educator, okay, hold on. Sorry, yeah.
You were asked, would you refer to me using they them pronouns? You said, no, I wouldn't. When asked why, you said, because I don't think it's a solution. When I brought up then it was basic respect and so on, what you said was, oh, I wouldn't do it if I was like coerced or whatever you said. Somebody literally just asked, would you do this for me? And you said, no, I would not show you that respect. I would not extend that amount of dignity to you.
That's not what I said.
Yes, you said
You said that you would not use they them pronouns for a person.
Nobody
I did say that.
Nobody asked anything about if I came like with a club and asked you to like use certain pronouns to refer to me.
What makes you think?
I just asked, would you refer to me if it wasn't for this law and I asked you to refer to me with they them pronouns, would you? And your answer was no.
Not if I was compelled to.
But we're saying if you weren't.
You said no, and then when I started asking you about, you said it wasn't a solution. When you were asked, what is it not a solution to? You said something vague. We said it's about basic respect, and then you said not if I was compelled to. So no, when you were just asked, as a matter of respect, in fact, would you refer to a trans person who asked you to use they them pronouns, a pronoun which has a several hundred-year historical...
But that's not what we're talking about.
Yes, it is, because it's legislation.
We're saying if it wasn't legislation.
It's not legislation.
I've got to stop, guys. There's too many of you.
Okay, one simple question.
I've had enough. Sorry, I can't do this.
One simple question.
No, I'm done.
I thought we were statistically irrelevant.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, I don't exist.
Oh, yeah, because I don't exist. If you don't call me by they and them, I don't exist as a human being. I would be fired as an educator because I could not deal with this level of stupidity, of people straw-manning me, of people throwing a question that I try to answer, and then that question I can't answer because someone else interrupted me with another stupid question. I want to take this professor out to dinner. Fuck, man. I want to have a conversation with him because this is a guy who I know that I would like. And he does raise a good question. In the long run, how does using they, them pronouns actually change the people's lives? I mean, yeah, it makes them feel better, makes them feel more validated by using their pronouns. I get that. But how exactly does that help trans people? How does that help individual human rights? How does that help with getting hired by a job? How does that help with getting a degree in something? If words are the most important thing to you in your life, your priorities are fucked. You yourself are fucked.
The person asked you, would you please refer to me by they and them pronouns? Would you refer to them by those pronouns?
Might depend on how they asked.
So no.
Why do you have the authority to determine whether or not
Why do I have the authority to determine what I say? What kind of question is that?
Why do you have the authority? Let me finish. Why do you have the authority to determine whether or not an individual is worthy of you using their pronouns? Like if I asked you, would you please use they them pronouns for me? What?
It would depend on what I
What
thought of your
hoops
motivation.
do you want us to jump through?
Those are my pronouns. Those are my
There's no
pronouns.
motivation.
No, I know. No one ever has any motivation.
We're
Those are
trying
my
to
pronouns and I want
survive.
to be-
Politics are a product of our lives and us trying to live in this world. We're not trying to live in this world as a product of our
you want me to
politics.
send you
I was
flowers?
apolitical before I came out as trans. I got into politics because I needed to survive, to advocate against people like you, no offense. I have one quick question. Okay, so they, them pronouns are written into the Oxford English Dictionary, the Merriam-Webster Dictionary. It's actually the word of the year this year. And it does have historical continuity all the way back to Shakespeare. It is objectively an English word, singular they pronouns, grammatically correct. Do you think that you can choose to not respect something that is in the English language as a professor, as an academic, that you are going to, that you are,
absolutely, I am choosing.
But you're ignoring rules of the English language to go out of your way to disrespect students.
That's your opinion, and I'm not going.
It is my
to
opinion.
disrespect students.
We're saying it's disrespectful
Anyway,
to
I'm
us.
sorry.
You don't get to decide what's disrespectful to us.
You see, I think, this is my opinion, and many people will not agree with me, to summarize this video and end this video because it's very, very long already, is that people do not deserve respect unless respect is earned. I do not believe in this universally respect everybody sort of shit. I believe that I believe in the universal act of being kind to everybody unless they otherwise show that they're not worthy of being kind. Kindness and respect are completely two different things. But respecting someone to me is something that they have to earn. For me to give someone respect, they have to say, think, or do that is worthy of my respect. And here's the thing, is people shouldn't be seeking out my respect to begin with. If you're upset that someone doesn't respect you as a person, move along. Forget about them. Don't watch them. Don't associate with them. Simple as that. But to demand that they respect you because you're a whatever, you're they, them, she, fucking helicopter, fucking pickle, fucking hamburger, I don't know. Priorities and your desires and what you want in life is in the wrong goddamn place. I respect people who earn it, not people who demand it. Thank you for watching this video, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. All my links are linked down below in the description. My Discord is official. This is the vanity URL for my Discord. It is now official. We are now partnered with Discord. This is the link that is permanent for everything, and the link will never change. Until next time, thank you guys for watching. Have a great rest of your Wednesday.